with the farm here, how we do things. So, the first thing we do, come on folks. So there is shade there, so if you guys want to stay in the shade, that'll keep you out of the sun. Real good? All right. So the first thing we have to do is we have to get seeds. We get seeds from the Australian Tea Tree Industry Association. So they've had a breeding program for many, many years to develop high quality seeds that will produce good yielding trees. So we get those trees, we put them into the cells, and we get the little baby tea trees to start growing up. So there we germinate them, and they're in these trays, and we produce many, many. This farm has over 3 million tea trees on it. So we've planted 3 million tea trees in the last 3 years. So each one of those trees comes up in one of these trays that have these cells, 1 tree per cell, you can see here. And each one of those is going to grow up into a tree. If we let that grow and we didn't cut it for the oil, that tree would grow up to maybe 7 meters tall. Wow. So when you go back over to the shed, off to the side of the shed, you will see some trees, tea trees, that we are growing to grow up to mature trees, not to cut for oil. Okay. So you'll be able to see what 2-year-old trees look like over there. Okay? So over 3 million trees. So every hectare, so 100 meters by 100 meters, we plant 33,000 trees. So a lot of trees. While these are in the nursery and we're growing the seedlings, we need to be working on the land to make sure that the soil is right and it's the right consistency and it's the right moisture content to take the seeds, these seedlings to grow. So one thing that we do on this farm is that we irrigate this whole farm. And to irrigate, it means we can't have any hills and valleys, okay? Because that would catch water in one place and then all dry at the other. So every single meter of this farm has been laser leveled. And you'll see that yellow machine over there? Yeah. That's a laser bucket. So we put that tall post on top, we put a GPS unit up on there. And that connects to a station back at the shed, and it maps exactly where that machine is on the farm and how much soil needs to be put down or taken off. So that machine has gone over this farm many, many, many times to get just, as it says, about a 15 millimeter grade. So for every 100 meters, we go 15 millimeters. Very subtle down there. And the whole farm from up there to there, and then that down to the dam. Same thing on the other side. It all slopes to the middle where our dam is. Okay? So once we've graded that all out, we have to hoe this. And that's what you saw the guy doing over there in the green tractor. He's hoeing it. So he's churning. Sorry. So he's hoeing that. He's churning up the soil, breaking it down into small pieces, because that will allow it to be planted better. Okay? So it's really important. The more time, the more energy we put into getting the soil just right, the better and easier it is, the better the planting that happens. Okay? After we spend all this time, and on this farm we spent 414 hours just doing what he's doing on that tractor over there. Just hoeing. That doesn't include all the other tractor work we've done. We then plant. So this red machine over here, you can see right over there, it plants 6 rows at a time. So we have 6 guys, like Stevie here. They sit there and they've got those little seedlings here, and they're dropping those seedlings into the cups. We'll go take a look at that machine afterwards. So it drops it into these little cups, and those cups spin around and drop the seedling down into the ground. And the machine's opening up a bit of ground and then pushing the ground back together. So the ground still will have a lot of air around the seedling, okay? And that's what then we do with this water cart, and you'll see that right behind us. See that tank? So that tank has arms that flip out, so that then we can water all 6 rows at a time, okay? So one thing I forgot to mention that's not on here is after we've hoed, we then need to make these hills, okay, make these raised beds. And right behind all these banners is the bed former machine. So you can see it's got big blades behind it, and we drag that through the soil that's been churned up with the hoe. This will make the beds and create those hills that you see that the trees are on. Okay? So that's the process of actually planting. With tea tree and a lot of Australian essential oils, we plant once ever in a lifetime.
What do you mean?
So we only ever plant once, and the trees grow up from what we cut. Okay. So let's go on to plant maintenance. So with plant maintenance, one of the things we have to do is to make sure that tea trees get irrigated or watered or rain. If we don't get rain, then we have our irrigation system installed. We've installed over 5.5 kilometers of pipe that's this big around. Okay, so a lot of pipe that's everywhere, so I can put water anywhere on this farm that I want. Okay, so it's really nice to have rain, but if it doesn't rain, our Young Living still needs oil. You need oil, your customers need oil. So we need to be able to get it to you. That means we need to irrigate to keep the trees growing. So that's where we have this dam that comes in. So this is our main irrigation dam. So our water mainly flows into that during rain, and we capture that. It holds 40 million liters of water. So with this dam, at full development, it will be able to irrigate this whole farm twice. Okay? When I irrigate, I can't put any runoff back into this dam. That runoff will have mud in it, and we don't want that mud going into the dam. We want to catch that mud first into what's called a tailing dam for the tail waste, and that's what this little dam is off to the side. And so all of our irrigation, all the drains run back into that dam. We let that water settle, all the mud that is caught in there, it settles down, and then we can dump that water back into the main dam and pump it back out again. So it's a continuous loop process. For our other farm water requirements on the farm, we capture rainwater. So that shed over there, really big surface, and we've got 2 big green tanks. We're going to be expanding that shed out the back, and we'll be adding 6 more tanks. This that we're standing on right here, this is going to have another big long shed for all of this equipment to keep it under cover, and we'll have more water tanks here to capture all the rainwater to keep it from running off so we can use it here on the farm. Once a year, we harvest. We like harvesting. So 4 weeks ago we harvested, so unfortunately we couldn't hold it for you, but this farm looked very, very different when we were harvesting. So right here you can see our harvester. So we cut the trees right at the ground. So you see those trees, they're about this tall, and they get this tall each year. So we cut them right at the ground. When this bin gets full, he pulls along over beside a big field bin and dumps the tea tree biomass into there. The truck then takes that biomass bin and takes it back to the distillery. So we're working with Young Living on creating a new distillery that will go into that shed. But it's going to be a very new, very interesting distillery that we're developing with Young Living's support. It will be very interesting when we announce it. But the harvester just keeps going back and forth, 24 hours a day. until all of the tea tree is collected, and that's one batch for us. So as long as we keep going and harvesting and taking it to the distillery, and the distillery keeps distilling, that's all one continuous batch. If our harvester breaks down, if the distillery breaks down, if it rains and we can't get the equipment out on the fields, that's the end of that batch. And then we start over once we can start the process again, okay? With our quality control, actually I'll cover that a little bit later. So you can see what down here, these were the grown trees just a few weeks ago. This picture was taken just 4 weeks ago. Okay. And we see now the new shoots that are starting to come up. The green coming up on the rows. 1 week ago, there was no green.
Oh.
It was just brown out there.
Okay.
So you're now starting to see the new tea trees growing up.
Wow, nice.
Yep. Going to the distillation. So these trucks head off to the distillery. These, the biomass here gets put into smaller bins, rectangular bins that are stainless steel. From this point on, our tea tree oil only ever touches stainless steel or glass or Teflon. Okay, so we've tested that over 3 years in studies with a university just nearby to make sure that even Teflon is good for tea tree. Okay, you can't put tea tree into normal plastic. It will make it sticky. You feel it's sticky, yeah. And if you ever see somebody with a bottle of tea tree and you see the bottle bubbling, plastic bubbling, not good. Okay, tea tree needs very special packaging. We've now just qualified the aluminium flasks, but very special ones. Okay, they can't be coated. You also don't put that little stopper in the top. That stopper will dissolve and fall into the tea tree. Okay, if that aluminium flask has a coating on the inside, the tea tree will dissolve it into the tea tree, and then you don't want to use that tea tree. Okay, so the good quality tea tree needs good quality packaging, and that's again part of our process. So this is distilled with steam, just like many other essential oils. So we put the steam in at the bottom of the bin. That steam rises up through, it's breaking the oil sacs in the leaves. We'll go in a few minutes once we finish with this, and we'll take a look at some leaves on the trees. And you might be able to see, maybe, if we hold it up to the light, you may be able to see little dots in the leaf. Those are the oil sacs.
Oh.
And over the year, those oil sacs will fill up with more and more oil. To right before we go to harvest, and they'll be bulging. And that's really good oil. The oil gets separated from the water. The water, does anybody know what we call the water that?
Hydrosol.
Hydrosol, yes, or floral water, exactly. Hydrosol. More and more of our customers are using the hydrosol for formulations instead of water. And it's really good for face masks. It's really good even for little children to put it in their bath. Yep, so the water is fantastic. It's got its own antimicrobial properties as well. Not as strong as the tea tree, much more gentle. We pump the oil then into holding tanks, and we need to let that oil sit for a few weeks. It's very important for a few reasons. One,